Story time.
Welcome to Jagged Little Edge. Welcome to Jagged Little Edge. Story time. This is the version of story time. I've been getting messages on the question is you always say your your boy's mother. You never say ex-wife. Um, so I'm going to clear that up. Yes, we were legally married. I don't say ex-wife or wife because I really don't consider that a marriage, even though it's on paper this marriage, and I married, and I get that, but that relationship was a tricky situation. So I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about the story of my boy's mother and I, and so I'm gonna get started with it. So kind of maybe clear up some stuff that people really don't believe that I was married. You was married? Yes, for 24 years I was married before I married the love of my life, my husband, famous. So it goes back to 1987, where I met my boy's mother at an after hours club. I was very well known as the dancer in the hood, as if you would call it, and I drew a lot of attention when I would dance, and that's basically how I got a lot of the women that I dated and was with because of my dancing and popularity with that. And so that particular night, it was a club called the Max. It was an after hours club, so it started at 2 and went to like 5:30, 6 in the morning. I out having a good time dancing and kept noticing that this young lady was always where I was, and so she finally came up, asked me my name, and we talked, and I found out by her accent she was from Paris, France. And so I was always fascinated with European, especially French. And so we became really good friends. She was here visiting at the time, staying with friends, and we met and exchanged numbers and started hanging out, going out to the movies, and just hanging out and having a good time. And we became really good friends at the beginning of our friendship. And so it came close to, and meanwhile, I tell you, at this time, I'm 22. That August, yeah, I had just turned 22 in February of that year. And so, and she was 21. Yeah, I believe 21. It was about to turn, no, she was 20 or 21, I can't remember. And so she kept, we would go out, have a good time, and she would talk about this visa. And I never knew what a visa meant. Meanwhile, I had never been out of the United States except when I came back from. My dad was in service, and we spent 3 years in Frankfurt, Germany. So I didn't know anything about a visa or anything. So she kept saying her visa is going to be up. Her visa is going to be up, and she hates to leave Colorado, and she really likes me. She finally found someone she likes, and so I finally asked her, "What is the visa?" Well, she says, "I came here on the visa, and it's time. Then I have to go back and apply for another visa, and blah blah blah." And then she told me the story about her family because she's French and Arabic, and she said they uh, had her arranged marriage there, and she kind of well, she did embarrass the family by running off and not marrying the guy that the family had picked out for her. I didn't know anything about that stuff, so we had became really good friends and very close friends. So, and I asked her, so how long did it take for you to come back and blah 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 and do all that? She says, I don't know, I might not be able to get one. And she says, the only way I can stay here if I get married. So I said, oh, but I wasn't thinking about getting married and stuff. But then she would tell me the story about her family and how they really, couldn't have no freedom and couldn't be, herself because her dad was Arabic and her mom was French and her dad was Arabic. So they kind of followed the Muslim way of living, and women are supposed to obey. And she's telling me the story, which I really didn't know anything about the culture and all that stuff. So we became really good friends, and so I said, well, I can marry you um, if that would work. And so she said, oh yeah, it will. And so I said, well, this is the thing, like, because at that time I didn't tell her at the beginning of the friendships that I was at that time, well, bisexual. And so I said, well, this is it. I'm struggling with my sexuality and I'm not quite sure. I have feelings this way, I have feelings that way, but mostly this way. So she said, oh, I'm French and we're very open to that and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Cool. And so I want to say August, so in November of 87, we got married in November. So, but to go back a little bit, and I told you guys, I think, well, I know my mom struggled with me being gay and bisexual or whatever. She really struggled with it. So when I told my mom that I was getting married, her not knowing the reasons why, I kept that a secret. And she was so happy. And this is the first time I see my mom light up about anything that I've done. And so that really, it made me feel good and it made me feel some type of way. But I was like, oh, my mom is happy. So we're just going to keep that where it is. We're not going to tell her the reason why and blah, blah, blah. So we get married in November of 87. So meanwhile, to listen to the story, we met in August of 87 and we got married in November of 87. So in that time, things became sexual with us. So we got pregnant with my oldest son, the one that you saw. We did my first conversation with my oldest son, and I am feeling some type of way because I know I married for the wrong reasons, but something beautiful came out of it, which was my son. And I was holding this secret from my mother, the reason why I got married. And so time go by. But the more I'm married and in this marriage, I am completely disappearing and struggling. But the only thing that's keeping me going is the fact that I'm a father, and I always wanted to be a father. Like I just knew I would. One thing I knew I would be good at was that. So we go through life, and I'm going through my struggles, and then we move to. I'm having a hard time with my family. I'm angry at my mom about some stuff. I'm not gonna go into that, and so she tells me, "Well, we can go live in France." So that's how. So from 97 to 80. I mean 90, 87 to 92. No, 93. Uh, I pack up everything and we move, and now we have two boys. My youngest, the middle child now, he was just born in November of 91. So in December of 90, no, November. So he's one when we go over there. So the next November, right before he turns one, he has his first birthday in Paris. So we moved to Paris in 92, in November of 92. And I come to find out the stuff she was telling me was all, it didn't add up. Like the family was a little strange, but it wasn't the picture she painted to me on reason why she wanted to stay in the United States, and then she just changed when we got there. Like it was just weird, and so I was very unhappy. I think when I was in France the first time, when I came back home the following year of '94, yeah, the early part of '94, we came back. I may have weighed 90 something pounds. I had just went to waste because I was so unhappy there. Paris is beautiful. It was just dealing with family and her and trying to protect my boys and scared that they were going to take us. Not all, but a lot of the Muslim culture, they would have these American kids and then take them back to their countries, and you never see them again. So I was so worried about that once I got over there. But I went and spoke with the American embassy there in Paris, and they assured me that they would, you know, give them a phone call if I needed the kids disappear, give them a phone calls. They had business card. Her family owned a restaurant slash bar, and so in Paris you can have the business on the bottom, then you can have the apartments upstairs. So they own the three apartments up there. So that's where they live. So they can just come down the stairs and work. So I know I had all the information where they can find them and track the people down. So I was okay with that. But I just struggled being there because for two reasons. The main one is like I didn't love her from the get go, and I just felt like I had sold myself to the devil. So anything that came my way, I deserved because I married for the wrong reasons. And so, trying to keep the story not being so long, we get back to my brother has an accident and breaks his neck off his motorcycle. And so I get the phone call and I tell my mother I'm coming back home. Me and the boys are coming back home. I don't know if she's going to come or not, but we're going to come back home. So I hid the boys' passport. I was started working there at an office building, and so I would take my boys' passports with me to work, and I would lock them in my locker at work just to be safe because I didn't trust her or the family. So, long story short, we get back to the United States, and that's when I start my cleaning business, and I'm okay, but I'm struggling inside because at this point, I just want to raise my boys, co-parent, but she had caught really, really strong feelings, and she would will me in because of the fact that I didn't tell my mother and family the main reason we got married, and I never came out to my parents or my family because I feel like it shouldn't be a discussion about who I am. You should love me regardless. So I never had that coming out story that everybody has. So she had that over me, and the fact that I was scared I was going to lose my boy. So years and years went by, and I tried to hide my happiness with raising my boys, having things, having a house built, trying to cover up my sadness through stuff. And this, I think that's why I have a issue now when me and my husband go through something and he buys stuff because I have covered up with stuff so many years that I know that's not the answer to it all. So to get to the knit and grit of that, I started really coming into myself, and as my son told you, the more I came into who I am and who I love about myself, the more depressed I became, very, very lonely, scared that she's going to tell my boys without, because we had an agreement that we would tell them when they get a appropriate age. Scared she's going to out, scared my boys are not going to love me because their dad is homosexual. And so just struggling and struggling with family, and then my home family with her and the boys, and just going through a lot. And so there was two suicide attempts, and it's so weird. My middle child, Fabrice, is the one. He's so young, he don't remember. He saved me from the first. I had slit my wrist, and I just forgot he was home. And I'm lying in the bedroom. We live in an apartment at this time, and I believe it was God. He had my son walk. Mind you, they have their own bathroom. They always use their bathroom. They didn't use ours. And he comes in to use our bathroom, and I'm there, bleeding and just hoping that it all ends. And so when I see him, I didn't want him to see me like that. So I laid there until he got in the bathroom. Once he shut the door, I just jumped up and ran in the kitchen. And then called my mother and told her I had cut myself really bad, not telling them exactly what happened. And so we go, I drive myself. I had my mom pick up my oldest son from kindergarten, first grade. And so she picks him up, and then I drive, and somehow the mother gets home, and so they all come to the doctors with me. The doctors knew, but if you don't say it, it's not much they can do. And he tried to get me to say the words, but I didn't want to be away from my boys, so I just said no. I was working on a project, and this is what happened. But the way I cut myself, they knew better, and so it's covered with tattoos at this point. And so I get through that, and I just had to shake it off and then go on with life. And but in the meanwhile, I just wasn't happy. So I'm skipping in between because I don't want this story to be so long. And so when it gets to I'm really getting comfortable with myself, and I started going to this group in Colorado called Brothers Forever, and started seeing all these amazing gay men that were pastors, doctors, lawyers, and everything under the rainbow. They were, and they were proud of who they were, and they were unapologetic about it and everything. So I was like, wow. So I had a talk with the boy's mother about that. I said, look, this is what we need to do. We had the house built, and I said, look, I'm willing just to let you have the house. I would help you. We can split the mortgage, and I would just go get me. You can have everything in it. Don't want anything. This is my clothes, and have time to spend with my boys. And she cried about it and stuff. So then she said it was okay. So I'm thinking everything's okay. So I remember going to work maybe 3 weeks after we had. And so going home and checking the boys' closet, and all their clothes are gone. And so I immediately called. She was working at a salon one time. And they said, "Oh, she gave us a 2 week notice way back." And so I'm like, "Oh my god, oh my god, my biggest fear is happening." So I'm calling around, calling around, calling around, and so they said, "Oh, but she left." They checked the drawers. She was a reception at the salon. They said, "Oh, she left a note for you." So I said, "Well, just read it." And she told me she was taking the boys to France, and they're gonna go to Nigeria. My biggest fear was coming true, and so I am panicking, trying. And I know by the time I got off from work, and by the time I don't know what time she left, I don't know when time the flight was, and so I'm just panicking and just going crazy and just nervous breakdown. This everything is happening. I'm just a mess. And I call my mother, and everybody's in shock that what had happened. And so I want to say 3 days go by. I can't work. I'm at home. Just what the hell am I going to do? And so 3 days go by, and I get this phone call. And it's a very threatening phone call. Uh, it was her calling me from France and telling me the boys are safe, but I can hear my oldest one screaming in the background. And I'm going, "What's is he okay? Is he okay?" And she said, "Yeah, he didn't want to come. He fought me the whole way." I said, "Well, you know you're not allowed to do that." And she said, "I can do whatever I want. I'm the mother, blah, blah, blah." And so at this time, fighting mode comes in with me. So I started getting on the phone, and I think I'll talk about this a little bit on one of the, I think with my son. And so I start calling lawyers to represent dads, African American dads, the LGBTQ people, gay fathers, and everybody was saying the mother is allowed to do. She can take them out. She's the mother. Just like you can take them out as the father. But I knew that wasn't true, especially out of the United States. It just wasn't true. But no one would help me. So what I did was I called the French embassy here in Colorado and explained to her what happened and what my fears were, and she got me in contact with the French embassy. I mean, the American embassy in France. And I told them what happened, and they said you didn't give her. I said no, she wasn't supposed to take them out of the country or out of Colorado. Period, without me knowing. So I gave them the address and stuff to where she was, and luckily she wasn't very bright. She was there. So the embassy asked me, when do you want your boys home? I said, as soon as possible. And so they go there. I don't know what time, but I know I get a phone call and she's cussing and screaming and carrying on. And I just said, you can do it all you want. I think my boys need to be back home. But the American embassy in France uh, gave me a choice that they will be back home on her expense, and if they're not by a certain time, there would be a warrant out for her arrest. Cool. So she calls and tells me what time they come back, and she said, "Can I come back and can I?" And I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And then at first I said, "Hell no, I just want my boys back." But then I'm thinking, how are my boys going to look at me if I one have her arrested, and then two without their mother? And I know people are like you're crazy and stuff, but in my heart I just knew, okay, but okay, you can come back, but this is the rules. I will be moving out, and or you will be moving out, one of the two. But and the reason why I say that, I always wanted my boys to have a place over there that they grew up in. So I was willing to let her have the house because of my boys. They were familiar with the house. They didn't have to uproot the schools and blah 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 and blah blah blah. So I've always been a caring person like that. So once they got back, it was a strange feeling, and the trust was really gone at this point. Like I was scared to even go to work, and I believe even though she was forced to, even though she was forced to come back, I still was scared uh, to leave my boys with them, and scared that every time I left the house that I would come home or they wouldn't there, or if I take him to school when I went to pick him up, she had came and picked him up and went God knows where with him at this point. Because I'm thinking at this point she knows not to go back to France, and I have no idea where the house is in Nigeria because I never went over there because I just as far as I ever was going to go was Paris, and so she doesn't. But things changed with me at that point, and I came really, really depressed and stuck. And now I'm stuck, and I'm scared that this is a touchy situation. Have this conversation, but I'm gonna do it. I'm just scared of losing my boys. No one else mattered but them, and so now they're becoming teenagers and they're getting through life. But things shift even with them. Um, in my heart, I know she had told them that I was homosexual, but no one said anything. But it's the way they were towards me, and it wasn't disrespectful of me, but it was a shift that happened, and I became isolated in my own house, lonely in my own house, depressed, just not wanting to be again. And so finally, I move out, and it was the hardest thing I had to do because I knew my boys was going to suffer a little bit for it because we were so close at that point. And so I moved out, got my own apartment, and left her. At this time, we had another house. We bought a townhouse, and I left her everything. I just left out of there with a couple of pair of blue jeans and some shirts and my dog, um, and be free and just. I was just there, but I was still just getting. I was just getting to know myself and love myself, and then I get a notice that the house is in foreclosure. So now I got to. I can't afford to take care of two places. So I give up my apartment, and then I remember standing on my mom's, and I told them the lease on the apartment was up a certain thing, but it wasn't up for like a month or a month and a half, and I just put everything in storage, and I just laid on my mom's floor for about a month because I didn't want to move back into that place, but I had to get caught up on the mortgage. So once again, we have this conversation. I would move downstairs, and we just have to do that, and then we sell the townhome, and we'll go our separate. But now the boys are older; they can either get their own place, move in with me, or stay with her. It at this point, they're older, and me and the boys they start working with me, doing my house cleaning, and so we come home one day and she's gone again. But this time I'm happy. I got everything I want. I got my boys. She's out the picture, and so I thought. So she leaves us this letter. Each of us, she left a letter. I didn't read mine to this day. I can tell you what it said. I tore it up and threw it in the trash. The boys read theirs. I didn't ask what it said. I didn't care. I was just happy she was gone. And so, but I knew she wouldn't stay because that woman did not want me to be happy. And I tell you, she fought, knew that she fought to keep me unhappy and keep me in a space where she had somewhat control of me. And so I knew she was going to pop up back up. And so I get a phone call from one of my mom's friends. This is maybe about 2 months after she left, and asked me why do I have to take her to work? How come I'm not taking her to work? And I was like, who are you talking about? Well, she had came back to Colorado from France, and my mother allowed her to stay in her home and not even tell me. And so I called my mother. I said, she's back in town. Yeah, you can't tell me who can't stay in my house. And I was like, yeah, you're right, I can't. But I'm supposed to be your son, and you know what she's done, and blah, blah, blah. So me and my mother get into it, and then me and my brother get into it, and all behind someone that hated my family, hated every last one of them. And it irks me today, like they still follow her on all social media, and they still accept a phone call from her, and they still, yeah, but that, that's, I can't tell them who and who they can't be friends with. And so that's when I disappeared from my family for 5 years because I felt at this time, my boys are young men, and both of them are homosexual. And for them, and no one knew. I knew, but I never said anything because you don't out anyone. And they didn't have my back. And I was like, so all the ugly things that she was saying about homosexuals, not knowing her two boys are as well. I said, look at God. Her two boys are as well, and my mother and my whole family just kind of turned against me. And what really hurt me the most is that my boys turned against me and lived in the house and know what I have been through with her. So in that time where I've been gone for 5 years, divorce papers was filed, and I think in 2011, I left in 2010. In 2011, the divorce papers, I couldn't find her to serve her. The job was holding her out, so I thought. But she had been fired from that job from stealing. And so somehow she got served, or I forget how that happened, but divorce papers were filed. And I made it a purpose that I didn't want anything. Now my boys are young men, so there's no custody stuff to fight over. I left everything for her, so there's no stuff. I just wanted to be free. And so I left everything. So I'm out here starting all over with me and my dog, who has passed, Yasin. And the divorce was final in 2000 and finished in final in 2014. And I I'm dating and I meet Famous in 2015. Because when we were talking about marriage, I had forgot about the divorce. I didn't find out the divorce was final until me and Famous decided to get married. And they said, "Oh yeah, you was done in 2014." When I tell you, I screamed on that phone. That lady was like, "I have never seen somebody so happy." I said, "Baby, you just don't know what I have been through with this one here." And so, and then people say, "Why would you get married again?" Because now it's done out of love, and I love my husband so much. Uh, I, I love him so much. And so now I am why I am now with my husband, happy. I have another child, and my oldest son just told me the other day that she's coming to visit my middle child, which stays out in Fort Collins, staying out there for 3 weeks. And he's like, I don't know if we're gonna be able to put up with her for 3 weeks. As long as y'all don't bring her around here, I don't care what y'all, what y'all do. But yeah, so that's why I said yes. I was married for 24 years, and I can tell you, out of that 24 years, the only thing that came out of good is my two boys. I struggled, and I always thought that was God's way of punishing me. I had lost my faith in God because everything is so horrible, and I thought that was God's way of punishing me for being homosexual. Cause you know the show preached that being homosexual and marrying someone you don't love. So I took a lot of the abuse thinking that this is what I deserve. And then when I took therapy with Miss Rita, oh, my therapist, I don't know if she want me to say her last name, so I won't. Who really got me together, got me to love and hug and just love who I am to to become the man that I am today is because Miss Rita. Love you dearly. You know who I'm talking to. And so, yeah, that's my story on story time of being married. So all y'all sending me messages like, I don't believe you was married, sweetie. I was married for 24 years. And like I said, the beauty of that is my two boys. And the beauty of life that now I get this another chance of raising a son in the name of love um, with someone that I madly in love with, and then I'm in a happy space. And my son even recognized how different I am with Sir L, and how happy I am because I'm free, um, free to be exactly who I am and love the man I became, and it ain't turned out so bad. So once again, thank you guys for joining Juggler the Edge and Story Time, and thanks for loving me and supporting me through it all. Thank you so much. Till next time, bye. Edge.
Thanks for watching Juggler the Edge.